Hey everybody, welcome to the Wings on Katella podcast, episode 7, if I have it right. We are Wings on Katella. We cover Orange County sports, the Anaheim Ducks, the Los Angeles Angels. We do that for the Sporting Tribune, www.thesportingtribune.com. Got the regular panel on hand today. Thomas Murray, it sounds like you have some friends in your backyard there. How you doing, pal?
I'm good, man. I don't know if you guys can hear my dogs kind of barking here and there, and then maybe my dad yelling at them. But I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm all right,
Oh
man.
yeah,
I
we
heard
got
the
birds running around.
birds. Yeah, so you guys can follow Thomas Murray. He covers the Angels and the Ducks for us at Thomas_L_Murray. I see Jack Janes in my corner over here. Jack, how's Arizona, buddy? I can only ask that for like another week or two, eh?
Yeah, literally less than a week. I drove home on Wednesday to wrap up the semester, but it's going good. The weather is beautiful right now. It's like upper 80s, lower 90s, sunny, no clouds. So I'm in my wheelhouse right now, and I'm getting out of town just in time for the 100 degrees every day shows up in like May, June.
Beautiful. I love it right now. I love the time of year there. You guys can follow Jack Janes, who covers the Angels for us at the Sporting Tribune. Also dabbles in hockey stuff. You can follow him on socials at JackJanes_. And Zach Kavanaugh, didn't want to leave you out. Now, are you at Edmonton?
No, I did not take that risky flight. No, safe home in Irvine and watching the playoffs from afar. It was nice to get some playoff action. First playoff games I've seen in person in 8 years, so that's something.
That is true, and we are going to touch on that. Zach Kavanaugh covers the Anaheim Ducks for us at the Sporting Tribune, also helping out with all hockey coverage. Zach, we'll get to that. You guys can follow Zach on socials at ZachCav. Schedule for today, boys, is we are going to talk Greg Cronin, Anaheim Ducks. We're going to talk Angels and some offensive struggles. So stick around because we're going to switch it over. We're going to go from one to the other. So to start this whole conversation, I'm going to go to Jack Janes. And Jack, my question for you is, who is the Ducks' next head coach, and why is it David Carl?
So it just makes too much sense for it to not be David Carl. I mean, look at his track record. He wins everywhere he goes. He's the most attractive candidate right now on the market, especially for a young team like the Ducks. He's been the head coach at Denver University for 7 years, I think, off the top of my head. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. But if he's got 2 national titles there. He's got he's got back-to-back World Junior Championships golds. He knows how to work young rosters, which, I mean, I feel like half the Ducks roster is my age or younger, so it's going to work out pretty well for him. And you just look at how Denver plays. If it's his system or just the players that he has, I mean, they're a fast-paced team. They excel off the rush, which we know the Ducks are really good off the rush. Their previous coach just didn't let them do that. So we'll see how it pans out, but I think it just makes too much sense for David Carl to not be the coach.
I love it. Zach Kavanaugh, I'm going to go to you now. Who is the Anaheim Ducks' next head coach, and why is it Dan Bylsma?
Oh, it's not Dan Bylsma.
Okay.
No.
I've got like 5
No.
names, so we've got time to go through this.
No.
You know what? I'll ask you this. Why is it Jay Woodcroft?
I think Woodcroft is the other name to look for because as much as David Carl is the hot coach, the coach with some connections to the Ducks roster, whether it's Troy Terry with Denver, Cutter Gauthier with Team USA World Juniors, I think this team needs an NHL hand. And not that David Carl can't come in and be successful. Plenty of rookie head coaches have done so. I mean, just look at John Cooper in Tampa or Jared Bednar in Colorado. Fantastic coaches, didn't coach in the NHL at a head coaching level until then. But Jay Woodcroft set up the Oilers to be competitive. They had a similar to like when Bruce Boudreau was in Anaheim. They were extremely good, extremely fast, played well, coached up Connor McDavid to be an NHL superstar. but they just couldn't win in the playoffs. And right now, that's not the Ducks' problem. The Ducks' problem is simply using the most out of the roster pieces they have and getting to the playoffs. Like, if they had just been average on the power play, average in, not even just average, but slightly below average in scoring depth this year, they might have been a playoff team with the guys they currently have constructed. So you get a guy that the Ducks have used AHL coaches the last two times, whether it's Cronin or Dallas Eakins before him. And Eakins did have some NHL tenure, but he was the guy that Jay Woodcroft replaced. So it would only make sense maybe to have Jay Woodcroft replace Greg Cronin here in Anaheim. And I think the offensive numbers speak for themselves and what he did in Edmonton. And you got a young core of guys that need to get out and running. Like, when I know we're going to touch on exit interviews at some point, when I talked to Olin Zellweger, I asked specifically about rush chances, and he said, yeah, we were super, super dangerous on the rush, and they all felt that way. Every single player felt that way. They all know that's the way they should play. And if you get a guy like Jay Woodcroft in there with an NHL hand, not inexperienced, knows how to balance the veterans and the rookies, I think that's just as good of an opportunity as jumping on the hot candidate like Carl.
Love it. Thomas Murray. Who is going to be the Anaheim Ducks' next coach, and why is it not Greg Cronin?
I mean, it's obvious reasons Cronin's not.
I think Zach hit every mark that we wanted on theirs, but still.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to agree with Jack on that one, though. I think David Carlton, just because I from what I've been seeing, is a lot of people think it's a good idea to just kind of get a guy that knows how to handle young players, and I think that's really important for the development of everyone, of all the youngsters on the Ducks. As Jack mentioned, everyone's younger than him. But I think that would, just kind of be the right choice for them, and just development and where this team is at and where they're headed.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Well, I guess that's all covered.
Taylor.
Who's the Anaheim Ducks head coach, and why is it Joel Quenneville?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, wow. I think Jack had a better...
John Tortorella,
or John...
I was going to ask a different one. I was going to say, why is it Marco Stern?
I don't think it should be. Marco obviously has been with the Ontario Reign for the last couple of years here. A good development coach, but I think Zach is the one that mentioned it, is the Anaheim Ducks are almost to a point of being past development. They're starting their very serious competitive window, so you don't need a development coach in there. You need someone that's a winning program. As much as I would love to see someone like Jessica Campbell, I mean, I think everyone wants to see Jessica Campbell in this role because there hasn't been a female behind the bench kind of thing to that degree. But I think it would be great to see someone like maybe an extreme scenario here, but maybe Todd McClellan. I think that, someone that's been there that has the capability of winning. And I think, Jack, you mentioned it, David Carl wins everywhere he goes. I think David Carl is a perfect blend for this Anaheim roster. I think when you're talking about youth, connectivity, the way that you can play in this system that he plays with, I think he's a perfect matchup. But realistically, I think the Anaheim Ducks at this very moment have surpassed the moment of we're developing players at the NHL level to we need to win. We need to freaking win this thing. So I would actually like to see someone with experience, not John Tortorella, not Joe Quenneville. Honestly, Bruce Boudreau is not the worst thing in the world, but I know, Zach, I'm sorry, man, but
no, I think Bruce would be a fine hire. It's just they've kicked that can down the road once before.
Yeah, they have. I think in all honesty, and you know what? This might sound insane. I think Dan Bilesman is actually a really good candidate. I don't know if they'd go in that direction, but I think Dan has proven that he can do things, and I think that'd be great. With what he did with Pittsburgh at the start of their window, I know it fell apart because of other things, but what he did at the start and end of their window, I actually think Dan Bilesman would be a great ad.
Why is it Randy Carlyle for a third time?
Yeah.
No, that's when the PTSD kicks in. Is the Randy Carlyle.
On that note, the Anaheim Angels. Dang it, I knew I was going to do that. Los Angeles Angels, not of Anaheim, even though they play in Anaheim.
Hey, if you ask the mayor, that's what they are. So.
Yeah. They had just coming off of a 3-3 homestand. They are still at 500 at, is it 11-11 or 12-12 or 10-10? It's one of those three.
12.
12-12.
12-12.
12.
Los Angeles Angels 12-12 coming off of a homestand against San Francisco and Pittsburgh. Thomas, you were there. This Angels team has struggled to hit mightily the last 2 weeks. As this comes after they went and played at George Steinbrenner, and if you hit a ball in the outfield there, it's gone. So, what's going on with the Angels? I know you were there this whole most of the week here. What's going on in Anaheim, man?
I mean, striking out. That's the one thing. First 2 games of the Pirates series, they struck out 24 times, 12 times in both games. That's a big thing. This team's not really making great contact on the ball. They're taking a lot of, just taking balls that they should be hitting and letting them just blow right past them at the plate. I don't know what it is. Approach just hasn't been that well. It seems like the whole lineup has just been in a funk. Zach Neto has been, a little bit of a recent spark for them. Had a, clutch double in his first at bat to give them the game's final score on Friday night. That was huge for them. Also came up big last night for them as well in the 8th inning. But yeah, I don't know. It's really weird what's going on. This team's striking out a lot. Everybody's not really doing too well. They third worst in the MLB in strikeouts. Already have 227 on the year. Strikeout percentage of 26.2 is 29th in baseball. Just not seeing the ball well. Luckily they've been kind of bailed out by good pitching.
Yeah, I do want to touch on the pitching here. The really, really nice thing about social media is a lot of people do the research, and you don't have to do it. Spend time. Beyond the Halo is a very well known Angels social media account. It's very much a personal account, so I'm not gonna say that this is a high end journalist account or anything. But Beyond the Halo does a lot of research and just put this out a few hours ago. Contact rates and basically chase rates, strikeout rates. The Angels are getting pitched in the zone more than any other club in baseball. They're not chasing a ton. They're actually right around average when it comes to chase. Their strikeout percentage is bottom 5, and their contact percentage is bottom 5. So this isn't an issue of, as much as we want to say it's an approach issue, which is easy to say, it's a contact issue. You're not making contact on pitches in the zone. Jack, any thoughts on this when it comes to the Angels' offensive struggles? And we'll touch on pitching here in a little bit.
Yeah, so it's funny you bring all that stats up because I'm literally looking at that right now on Fangraphs. I was going to bring that up, so
we
great
also have
timing.
Jack Janes. You can follow him on socials at @JackJanes_. He does great with research as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, it's like they're getting pitches to hit. They're just not hitting them. They're swinging and missing. And this really all started after the Tampa Bay series. So that's starting at April 11th of their first game against Houston. The highest strikeout rate in baseball, the lowest walk rate in baseball, the second worst batting average in baseball. It's crazy. Like the hitting coach Johnny Washington did a Q&A with Sam Blum at The Athletic today, or it came out today, and they asked him do you think it's approach or anything like that, and he said honestly we're just not ending that. His exact words were, we're not ending the at bats when we want them to. So that tells me it's like they're getting their pitches to hit, they're just not executing, and they're not doing it, and then the at bat goes longer, and they spiral from there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward because this is 162 game season, so every team's going to have a week or so where they look like they're the best team in baseball, and a week or so where they look like the worst team in baseball. Especially the Angels. They've run through hot stretches like this before and cold stretches like this before, so we'll see how it goes.
And it was before last night, and I haven't updated it yet, but if you look at their 10 games prior to last night's game, 57 for 317. They're batting 180 over that span. Like you said, Jack, you mentioned something. It's stretches. 10 games is a quote-unquote small stretch, but when you're looking at 9 guys hitting every day and 10 games, that is a big stretch. That's a very big marker. I think you mentioned it. We're not calling for Johnny Washington's head here. It's not like something that Johnny is unaware of by any sense, but there has to be something that registers and clicks. Angels did not face Paul Skeens this week. It's not like you're sitting there and you go 0 for 27 against Paul Skeens. This is something where you have to compete. And I know that the Angels, we've talked about it. This is a 75, 76 win team is what you're hoping for. And playing 500 ball is a good thing this early in the season. But if you want to play 500 ball through and through, you're going to have to collectively move the needle. I do want to come back to this. Just looking at the Angels roster in bulk, there are some holes. I just don't know if there's holes to be fixed. But before we do that, we're going to move back to the Anaheim Ducks. Zach Kavanaugh, you had exit interviews with the Anaheim Ducks players. Sounded like you were flying solo there for a little while on some of those guys. But some of the guys that you talked to, you mentioned Olin Zellweger. That's a big one. Can you kind of just tell us what the end of the Anaheim Ducks season was like when it came to the players' perspective in these exit interviews?
Yeah, so exit interviews ended up being a little odd because unlike most teams in the league, there wasn't a single getaway day that everybody got together at once and kind of ran through the gambit. And the second day of those interviews were canceled because Cronin was fired that morning. So I only got to talk to a few guys, mostly the younger guys. It was Cutter Gauthier, it was Olin Zellweger, Leo Carlson, Mason McTavish, and Jackson Lacombe. Honestly, I don't think I learned a whole lot out of the exit interviews. It was kind of a similar vein to what had been going on the last few, weeks, months. What I did try to nail down was some concrete thoughts on the defensive play from some of those guys. And Zellweger was the most forthcoming, and I got to say I was extremely impressed with Olin Zellweger's demeanor and answers. He was clearly frustrated by coming in and out of the lineup all season, and he's extremely hungry to kind of get going back again. I got that same energy from Mason McTavish, too, about being hungry and ready to go. I don't know if they knew what was going to happen the next morning at that point when I talked to him, but I can only imagine that certain guys like Zellweger or even McTavish, where there were some shackles kind of put on their game at points during the year, will be excited to hopefully get a coach in that will let them get out and run a little bit more. Because, again, I talked to Zellweger specifically about the about rush attempts. And some of these guys are a little more guarded, like Mace McTavish, great guy in the locker room, not the most forthcoming when you try to pry anything out of him. He's kind of tight-lipped. Jackson Lacombe, I asked certain things to Olin Zellweger, got one answer. Asked Jackson Lacombe the same question, and got a kind of polar opposite answer. So I think the most real take is maybe somewhere in the middle, but probably closer to what Olin Zellweger was saying of too much time in the defensive zone. They all knew it. The shots allowed, he even said the shots allowed numbers speak for themselves. There's not a whole lot of negotiating that needs to go on there. And Jackson Lacombe, when I did sort of pivot a little bit, he said, yeah, with how good our goalies played, we need to play better in front of them because we sort of were wasting these great seasons from these guys. So, again, I don't know that I got anything new out of what was going on, but it was, I think there was certainly an air of something needs to change. And if Cronin had come back, I think they all would have said, we're not going to keep hitting the same nail with the same hammer over and over again, that something needed to change in their approach, and they're certainly going to get a new one whenever that comes.
Did you play hockey player interview bingo?
Oh, I have a checklist, sure.
I was going to say, so did anyone say pucks in deep?
Oh, obviously, for sure. Like I said before, that's kind of like how.
Like I said before, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Like I said before,
obviously, for sure. I said before,
it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean. But you got to go. Yeah, no, I mean.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously. I think the most refreshing thing.
Come away with a W.
See, that's the stuff you get on a day-to-day basis, at least, and that was something that, leaning back into Cronin, whenever, I don't know if it was just he was giving us the answers that he felt would just make us stop asking him about things, but he gave the same answers a lot. And early in the season, as fans would know, there was a lot of I don't knows, and that got a lot of reaction on social media, and then that transferred into, we just got to shoot more. We got to skate and we got to shoot more. We got to skate and we got to shoot more. It's like, okay, that can't be the answer to everything.
See, I actually like I don't know. I like that as a response because that's honesty. I'd rather have the honest answer of I don't know or yes, no, something stupid and boring than something that's made up.
But it doesn't give you a whole lot of insight to a coach that people already have their knives out for when the season started. And so when you look like you don't have any answers, then they ask, well then why are you here?
No,
and
it's
they don't have to ask that question anymore.
And I feel like, too, with what Zach's saying, because I have experienced the fair share of I don't know and a lot of similar answers. And sometimes he would answer the different questions with almost the exact same answer. And I'd be like standing there like, huh? Very confused. Oh my gosh, I lost my track. I was just going to say that, like, I got a lot of that from him, too. And a lot of the stuff that I would just hear from him was just very repetitive. And it kind of, like, listening back, it would just kind of leave me more puzzled. Like, you know, what just happened?
I think with Greg, the thing I liked about Greg is there was a form of transparency, even if it was political response, even if it was, I still like, I don't know. I still like little things like that. And Zach, you mentioned some things to me. I think this might have been off between us kind of thing, but it's, you guys address things that he either is unaware of or does not want to respond to, and he either would not respond with a political response, or he would literally say, this is something I'm unaware of. Now, Zach, is that the vibe? Because I liked a little bit of that transparency from Greg. And that's I understand that this is a move that was necessary for the time being, but I think Greg was maybe the right guy at the right time. And now he's the wrong guy at the right time.
Well, I will say, when we would talk to Cronin over the course of the year, the things that he would give some really good responses to stuff, but it wouldn't be about how do we fix the power play, because he would be like, well, I'm hands off on the power play, or it'd be like, or how do you what more can we do to generate offense? We just got to shoot the puck more. What he was really good at, and this is why I think he will still be employed in hockey going forward.
Absolutely.
I do still believe he's a really good developmental coach, because the way that he thinks about the game in terms of developing players on an individual basis, not necessarily as a team concept, because I just think some of that is a little too old school or a little too square peg sort of situations. But I would ask him, like, what are you seeing in the development of Pavel Minchikov or Olen Zellweger? What are you seeing? What's different from Cutter Gauthier a month ago to Cutter Gauthier now? And he would really go into it. And I specifically asked towards the end of the year, when the young players started to come up, what do you see in these kids' development? What does this mean for this franchise to see these kids come together? And he would give these long, thoughtful answers. And at the beginning of the year, there were a lot of 15-minute availabilities with him, and those shrunk to 6 or 7 minutes by the end of the season, because he had already said everything already. We didn't want to ask the questions that we knew were going to get the same answers anymore. So when it came to actual gameplay stuff, I don't know. But when it came to developing players and thinking about the game in a individual skills perspective, I think he's a really good coach in that regard. But it doesn't translate as an NHL head coach. It just doesn't.
And Jack, I cut you off. I really apologize for that, man.
I was just going to say, like, because you were talking about responses that you liked and didn't like from him. The one response that I had questions about was he would always say, we just need to play the right way. And he said that all year long. And it's like, if you say that all year long, how good of a job are you doing as a coach to not get your guys to play the right way if you have to say it after every single game? Like, how many times did he say, like, yeah, we played the right way tonight? Like, few out of the whole season. So I don't know, that's the one that perplexed me the most, was just like, if you can't get your guys to play the right way or to play the way you want to, it's kind of an indictment on yourself, I guess, if it stacks up game after game after game for a full 82.
Yeah, I think that was the thing, is it's not necessarily the I don't knows or the transparency that was the problem. It was, we would try to ask specific things, and he would give vague answers, or not vague answers, just to sort of like, we got to play the right way. Okay, well then what is the right way? What exactly do you want to? Because I remember asking before the final 3 games of the season, because at this point the season's lost. You're not going to hit 500. Like, what more do you want? What specifically? I asked, what specifically do you want to see out of them in the final 3 games? And he said, play the right way. And I was like, I was kind of taken aback, and I was a little disheartened to like not even provide a follow up, because it was like, okay, then you're just not going to tell me. Like, you don't want to see them work more on the inside of the ice. You don't want to see them be crisper on the board, like win board battles. I would have taken literally anything specific, and he gave another vagity as if he knew that, you know, there. I gotta say, there was a lot of down energy around the whole thing in the last like week or so, where it was just sort of, it felt like the writing was on the wall before we even knew what was actually happening, which is kind of surprising still to see him be surprised when he got fired too. So
yeah, I was gonna say, like, watching the availabilities after every game the last, like, I would say 2-3 weeks, it just seemed like he was so defeated and didn't have an answer for anything and just didn't want to be there, specifically in the post game pressers. Not saying in his actual coaching, but I'm saying that in the post game pressers, it just seemed like he was uninterested.
Yeah, the energy was low over like, because there were times where he would kind of get energized with us and respond to stuff or get excited about, even in a loss, when I would ask about a specific player's game, he would get excited about that stuff, and then he just sort of, it felt like some energy was sapped out of him for sure, and it kind of felt like that across the room, which I guess is to be expected a little bit, but yeah, it was a slow death march once they were mathematically eliminated.
We're gonna add to the hockey player bingo on our next segment. I need to break segments somehow, but we'll see where the offseason goes. We're not looking for the best player. We're looking for the best fits. Thomas, Angels pitching over the last, actually just to start the year. We're going to talk about 2 little things here. Starting with Angels pitching, you were there last night. Tyler Anderson giving up home runs to a degree, but actually Tyler Anderson right now, as it sits, 2.6 ERA, 27 2/3 innings over 5 starts, 1.60 ERA plus. It's kind of fitting. Yusei Kikuchi and Tyler Anderson are pitching like veterans, putting out really good numbers, but the Angels are just not winning the games they're playing in. Jose Soriano got beat up real bad in his last start. Jack Kahanowitz has started to look a little delicate with the contact and the defense behind him, and Kyle Hendricks is just going out being Kyle Hendricks. Obviously, the rotation kind of doing their job. The bullpen starting to connect. What are your thoughts on the Angels pitching through the first 24 games of the season here?
It really hasn't been bad, and it's the reason why they're 500 right now. Most of their struggles right now, I believe, fall solely on the offense. Pitching has really kept them in it. It's kept them in games. I mean, aside from, was it Wednesday night's loss where they lost 9-3, and then they lost like about a little bit over a week ago. They had that really bad loss in Houston. If you look at a lot of their scores, they're not by that many runs. Pitching has just kept them in the game, like I've said, and you know, I know they've been able to get a bunch of quality starts out of their starting pitchers. They've been able to go distance in games, keep the scores low. That's just been the big difference for them this year, though. Fun fact, I believe on Sunday was the first time the Angels had won a game with Yusei Kikuchi on the mound. Now, he didn't necessarily get credited with the win, but, you know, he did tell us, like, hey, it did feel nice that we got the win on a game where I pitched. You know, overall, he's not really looking to just, pad the stats, get the win-loss record right. He's more focused on the overall goal, the team winning. But, you know, it was the first time they'd won a game with him on the mound, which was kind of shocking considering he's been good there for them this year. He's been so consistent. He's been reliant. Anderson, I think they haven't lost a game with him on the mound, so it's been a little polar opposite, surprisingly. They've been able to just come through for him. He got the win on got the win on Friday night last week, and then I don't think he wasn't credited last night, but they still won the game. Offense been a little bit polar opposite between the two starting on the mound, but they've found ways to. I would just say the pitching's just kept them in it though so far this season. That's my biggest takeaway.
You mentioned Yusei Kikuchi. I just pulled it up. He's averaging 17 and a half outs per start so far. So that's a little over 5 innings, just under 6 innings, about 5 innings, 2/3 is his average right now. His ERA, like I said, 3.38. It's a 1.23 ERA plus, so he's 23% better than the rest of the league when it comes to run limitation. If you told me I was going to get that, I'd be really happy, thinking that I'm going to go 3-2 or 4-1 in those 5 starts instead of 1-4. That's where I think something that I've noticed with this Angels team is, and you want hockey cliches, we'll throw a baseball cliche in. I think starting pitching has kept the Angels in 90% of their games. I'm not.
Yeah,
everyone's
I
bound
agree
for
with
a
you.
blow. Everyone's bound for a blow up, and every pitcher so far this season, to a degree, has had that blow up inning or some form of a blow up. I don't mind that. You take it once every now and then, right? If you have a starter that's making 30 plus starts a year, I'll take 27 of his best as opposed to all 30. I'd love to have all 30. I'd love to have Clayton Kershaw circa 2013, but that's just not the scenario, right? So
Yeah.
Yusei Kikuchi is not blown up. Jose Soriano had his blow up. Jack Kahanowitz had his blow up. Kyle Hendricks is not. Tyler Anderson is not. You look at the bullpen. Ryan Johnson, obviously his debut was not great. The second inning of his debut was not great. He's been fine since. Brock Burke, similar scenario. Ryan Zefferson has actually been one of the best relievers in all of baseball this year. Garrett McDaniels, a big blow up. Michael Darrell Hicks, big blow up. I do think it is important to get Ben Joyce or someone that's another high leverage reliever back into this bullpen. But you can only do so much, right? You can only do so much with that. But realistically, the Angels pitching, and we're going straight to the cliches, we're going to baseball bingo here, they've kept the Angels in games. I think the pitching has been great. Jack, I see you nodding your head. I'm sure you have a lot more data points than what I'm bringing in as based on opinion. But when it comes to the data points, what are you seeing that you would agree with?
Yeah, I mean, overall, they've been better than expected. Still got, room for improvement for sure, as with everybody else. But, I mean, one quick thing on Ryan Johnson, you mentioned him. After giving up 5 earned runs in his debut on opening day, he's given up just 1 earned run in his last 8 1/3. So
Yeah.
he's on the ERA still says like 6 or whatever it is, but, he's been pitching well the last few outings, excuse me. But overall, as a staff, one thing that I noticed, I saw a talk on Twitter about how the Angels are walking a lot of batters and all that. They have a 10.4% walk rate, which is the 6th worst in baseball this year. But they have the 10th best in zone rate at 43.5%. So they're in the top 10 at throwing pitches in the strike zone, but they're also in the bottom 10 in walk rate. So how is that even possible? Well, they have a 29.8% chase rate as a pitching staff, which is 23rd in baseball. So they're not getting anyone to chase outside of the zone at all. I haven't dug too deep into the weeds to figure out why, because there's 2 options. There's one, they plain simple don't have the pure stuff to get guys to chase, or 2, how bad are the misses outside the zone? Are they right outside the zone that should be getting chases, or are they just way out of the zone, non-competitive pitches? I haven't looked at that yet. But in terms of the pure stuff, on Fangraphs, the Angels have a 99 stuff plus as a team, which is 22nd in baseball, which isn't good. So it could be that.
Just real quick on that, and I stuff plus is an interesting stat, but just to explain it, 100 is still the set bar line. That's average.
Yes and no. The problem is
measurement, but that's where and that's what there's a problem with Stuff Plus when we dive into that stuff. Like we were talking about analytics on our last show, right? Stuff Plus is great just as a baseline, but when you're looking at it in a broad scheme, Stuff Plus is just okay.
This is my opinion on it. I think as a team it gets inflated because like 99 is like 1 below average technically, but the problem is sample size. So like relief pitchers are going to have higher Stuff Plus because they can air it out and they only have to throw an inning. So they're going to inflate the numbers, whereas like starting pitchers, an average starting pitcher is like 100, but because they're throwing, 100 pitches a game as opposed to the reliever that's throwing like 10 to 15 pitches a game. So I think that's why it's inflated for team stuff pluses.
And you mentioned something too. I know that Tyler Anderson does actually have a decent stuff plus, but you have a guy like Kyle Hendricks, and I love Kyle Hendricks, but you have a guy like Kyle Hendricks, who's, I imagine, without looking at it, his stuff plus is way near the bottom of the league average, right? It's way down near the bottom of the whole league. Then you have a guy like Ryan Zefferson, who we haven't mentioned a ton, but Ryan Zefferson, I imagine, is near the top of the board right now. So you have that balance point, but like you said, Ryan Zefferson's throwing 25 pitches per outing. Kyle Hendricks is throwing 100.
Yeah. Funny side story. When we were in spring training, after one of Kyle Hendricks' starts, we go into the locker room to talk to him after the game. And I don't remember what the question was, but it was something along the lines of, how important is it to get creative because of your diminished velocity, whatever. And his response was, well, obviously I'm not a stuff guy. That's how he started. That's how he started his response. I love Kyle Hendricks. Great dude.
He is. Actually, that is one thing that a lot of people don't get to see. There are certain people in the industry, and Zach, I'm sure you've talked to guys that you like more than others based on how you interact with them. Kyle Hendricks, undeniably, top 5. I've covered this team for almost 15 years at this point. Kyle Hendricks was an immediate, straight to the top of the board kind of guy when it came to being on the field. So not only are you happy to see him performing on the field because you like the guy to that degree, but also, it helps. No one wants to cover a bad team. And hate to say it, boys, last couple of years, we've been covering some bad teams. So you want to see these teams do at least a little bit better. No matter your previous fandom, we are unbiased, neutral journalists, but whatever our previous bias is, you want to see the team that you're covering do well to at least some extent because it means you're not bored while doing it. So,
100%.
Ryan Strome is my Kyle Hendricks.
I was gonna.
Yeah, Ryan Strome is good. He's a good.
I figured it was gonna be Ryan.
I was gonna say, what about Vetrano? He was really cool.
Frankie Vetrano.
Frank's fine. He's not the most eloquent speaker, but that's
As long as he's a good dude.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude, but you just gotta break through the hard wall that he puts up.
Johnny Giavotella, number 1 on the board. Number 1 on the board for sure. Johnny Giavotella. So
He's a scrappy guy.
Such a dude. Zach Thomas, we're gonna transition back. So Angels pitching, like we said, it's keeping them in games. It's a positive. Find the blend. If you're average across the board, you're 500. So just be average. Just be average. That's such a great.
I just saw this stat from Jeff Fletcher, and I extended it because it was a couple games ago. But 12 of the Angels' last 13 home runs have been solos.
Yeah,
that's
about right.
That's been
not helpful.
Well, another stat that I wrote down: the offense since April 11th, they have the worst on base percentage. So they're not getting guys on base to hit multi-home run game or multi-run homers. You know what I mean?
That's actually been a theme of the Angels for
a while.
For years.
I mean, for 10 years. I mean, if you pulled up Mike Trout's home run, career home run chart, it's well over 60% are solo home runs. It's not something. Yeah, it's really bad. That's what you look. It's funny. Mike Trout is coming up on 400 home runs. If you look at the markers of you compare stats. Mike Trout's always been only Barry Bonds and only Babe Ruth and only Mike Trout have this. If you add in the RBI numbers, it's like Cole Calhoun also did this. I don't want to bash Cole Calhoun. I love Cole Calhoun, but it's he just does not drive in runs because there's no one on base for him to drive in.
Well, and remember the 2015 MVP race between him and Donaldson. The biggest thing was they have similar batting average, similar home runs, similar this, similar that, similar that. But Donaldson has 30 more RBIs. It's well, he also has guys on base in front of him.
That's not Trout's fault.
Yeah.
I'm going to share a story on that one. That was I had a really good friend. He is now the broadcaster out in Springfield, Missouri with the AAA team. But we did a podcast, and he literally just started cussing me out because Josh Donaldson had just come through Angel Stadium, and he was with Oakland at the time. And Oakland fans were just MVP. Donaldson had to have gone 8 for 13 with 4 home runs during that series. It was just this insane. He was playing Gold Glove defense at third base. He hit like 4 or 5 home runs over the series. It was like the greatest singular performance over a series I've ever seen. And I'm like, I know I cover Mike Trout, but Josh Donaldson just put together an embarrassment at Angel Stadium and just won the MVP because it was like a September series. And I just remember people were livid that Josh Donaldson was better than Mike Trout that year. So for me, AL MVP. But yeah. Switching gears.
What was the joke back in the day of the Angels? It was Ohtani and Trout make history, and they end up losing
Tungsten
like
Arm Doyle.
20 to like 2 or something.
Tungsten Arm Doyle, man. He and the Angels lose 10-3.
Yeah.
I missed that, honestly.
What's that?
I missed that a little bit.
You can bring it back. Mike Trout's still doing things that are historical.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's second in the league in homers with a 172 batting average.
It's true.
Go
but
get him, Mike.
hey, you're looking at almost a 9 OPS.
Sure.
Jeff Carter. Not Jeff Carter. Ryan Carter.
Ryan Carter. So right players, right fit. See how I was gonna say see how the winter goes, but see how the summer goes. Zach, there is obviously a primary free agent target. Obviously, the Anaheim Ducks are in the mix. They want to have a player of this caliber. I also think there's 29 other teams that want a player of this caliber at the top of the free agent market. The Anaheim Ducks do have a little bit more fundage, I believe, a little more open salary space. Mitch Marner. Do you believe Mitch Marner is a likely candidate for Anaheim? And what would he do for an offense similar to? I mean, you've got key players, you've got tools to play with, but does Mitch Marner move the needle that much more when it comes to the Anaheim Ducks?
If you imagine a top line of Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson, and Mitch Marner, yeah, I think
you and I talked about it too.
I think that does something for you. It's a matter of two things. One, Mitch Marner's a Toronto boy. Wanted to be a Toronto Maple Leaf his whole life. He's starring for the Toronto Maple Leafs. If Toronto goes on to finally break through and win a cup or something, then I have no idea if he's going to stick there or not. Because the other half of it is the money. Like, he wants too much money, and the Ducks have room to offer someone too much money. They tried to do it last year with Stamkos and Marchessault, who both went to Nashville. And they took less money still to go to Nashville than the Ducks were reportedly offering. So they can offer him the moon. It's just whether or not he actually wants to go. And will he negotiate something to stay in Toronto? I don't know. Like, as much as I've even made the jokes of future Anaheim Duck Mitch Marner when he scores in these playoffs, the pass he made last night to Austin Matthews that left Linus Ullmark looking around the wrong goalpost.
That one was pretty good.
Phenomenal. And like Ducks fans saw when Toronto came into Anaheim, the block shot breakaway that Marner scored, it was like, there's on display everything you want from this guy to inject more into the Ducks offense. Because as much as the Ducks have developed goaltenders, as much as they've developed defensemen, as much as they've developed good third line grinders, they had to go out and acquire Cutter Gauthier to be a top line scorer. Beckett Seneca is the next best thing in the system, and it's unsure if he's going to be a guy like a Marner or even a Corey Perry or something, just similar body shape. But they're going to have to acquire these elite level scorers via free agency. So they're going to have to throw everything at Mitch Marner if he's available, at least take the talk. I think the other two guys to look for are Nikolai Ehlers, although injury history could be a factor. And then another step under that is Brock Besser.
Whoa.
Hey, he's not Nikolai Ehlers and he's not Mitch Marner. He's good. And he could be productive. He's just not as productive as those guys. So you're kind of saving money to spend it elsewhere if you do that route. I think there's options, but I think they have to throw everything at Mitch Marner because it's a light free agent market. It's him, then a drop, then Ehlers, then smaller drop to Besser. And then if you don't, same way as it was last offseason, if they don't get the two guys they're targeting, then what do? They can't go trade for Robbie Fabry again. Like, they have to get someone of consequence in this offseason.
That's fair. Thomas, just kind of looking at this, let's just say that Mitch Marner doesn't come to Anaheim. The percentages are going to play against him. But let's just say, what do you think? Who is someone you would try and target, and what would you use? I'm assuming Olin Zellweger is going to be the first guy off the top of your mind to move if you need another forward, because you have this surplus of defensemen, and it seems like Pavel Mityakov, Jackson Lacombe, among others, have more upside. They have a little bit more growth. Olin Zellweger, as much as I'm a huge Olin Zellweger guy, I think he skates with the best of them. But I think, Zach, you and I were talking about it. You said this might be what Olin Zellweger is. This might be the cap. So, Thomas, if you were going to move someone like Olin Zellweger, who are you trying to target? What are you trying to acquire over I keep wanting to say winter, but what are you trying to acquire over the summer?
Well, I will say this. I agree with you, Taylor. I actually think Zellweger could be a pretty decent player. I've gone on this podcast too before and said that the one thing that I've always noticed in his game is just how smooth he is with the puck. And I think he's a really good passer and creates opportunities for them, kind of like a good point guard in basketball. But I think the one thing the Ducks just need is just somebody that can score for them. This team had a hard time last season scoring. And like we've said on this podcast, they were bailed out by good goaltending all year. So, I mean, just anybody that can score. The thing that's going to be surprisingly in hockey, it seems like it's hard to get guys to come out to Southern California. I mean, the fact that we're talking about somebody not wanting to leave Toronto, where it's below freezing temperatures all the time, for a place where it's 60 degrees in December. It's just kind of crazy.
Media market's always fun up in Toronto. They're great people.
Yeah. Well, the Toronto's
too, I'm not.
I didn't say anything.
Toronto.
I absolutely love Toronto media.
Mitch Marner's like an interesting guy when it comes to that stuff too, because everybody in Toronto wanted Steven Stamkos to go to Toronto.
Yeah.
And Steven Stamkos didn't want to go to Toronto. He didn't want to deal with it. But Mitch Marner does. Austin Matthews does. So
here's something you guys might know more about it because this is a baseball thing. Is the Dodgers, Angels, Giants, anyone located in California, when it comes to state tax as opposed to where you reside, right? Yeah. So California is one of the highest state taxes in the nation, if not the highest. So when you look at these international players, I kept saying forever and a day, I thought Roki Sasaki was going to go to the Texas Rangers. It's a financial decision. That's why Yu Darvish went to the Texas Rangers, among other things. Is it similar with hockey? Even if a guy is low, because you talk about state, you talk about where is your residence, where is your work, where is everything like this? Is it tougher for a Canadian resident to come play where the state taxes are high?
Well, I mean, isn't it already high in Canada?
That's what I'm saying. So is it tougher for a Canadian resident as opposed to an American hockey player to come play in Anaheim because of all the taxes included? Are the Kings and the Ducks and the Sharks going to have to overpay on free agency? And I know the Ducks have the salary space, but,
I think no matter what, the Ducks are going to have to overpay, not just because of the state tax, but because they're not a proven winner yet. So that's how they're going to be enticing to other free agents. Obviously, if I'm a free agent, I'm looking at the young roster. It depends. It also depends what coach they hire. Because if they like the coach they bring in, they see the young roster, gobs of cap space, state taxes are high, they're not a proven winner, they might be like, okay, yeah, you might have to shell out a couple more $1 million for me. There's another note I was going to say and I forget. This not a Canadian, but Frank Vetrano deferred his contract payments for state tax purposes, so it's definitely a thing around hockey. It's just how big of an impact is that going to have on free agency?
Yeah,
well, you can imagine
to build off what Jack's saying there. They have to be good because all you have to do is look at the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're especially Tampa, even Vegas too. You build a proven winner, and you live in a state where there's less taxes. It's Dallas too. Teams or players are going to say, "Hey, I don't mind signing a long-term deal." Whether it's Mikko Rantanen, for example, who just did that in Dallas. You don't mind doing that. Whereas in Anaheim, I know Montreal has had a hell of a time trying to get free agents over the years because not only do they have the Canadian tax bracket, they have the Quebec tax bracket, which is even further beyond that. So there's so many factors that go into it. The money is different too because it's this opposed to baseball where there's the salary cap. So in baseball, you can overpay on paper,
big time,
and still make the same amount of money no matter where you are. In hockey, it's like, well, if I'm going to sign you a $9 million contract on the salary cap, that is going to be a different amount of money no matter where you are, and that's going to affect how we can do business for the rest of the team. So as it stands right now, the Ducks have the ability to overpay, and they think they probably just should. Because the other thing to note is the salary cap is going to go up quite a bit over the next few years based on the projections. So they can afford to go all out this summer for a Mitch Marner or Nikolai Ehlers or whomever. And then, you're going to have more space to deal with going forward. The other hand is the Ducks do have a lot of guys coming up for contract in 2 years. So not this summer, but next summer. And that's going to be a very interesting time.
Jack, you mentioned something, pending who they bring in, right? I'm trying to think off the top of my head, Denver University. Because in all honesty, I think David Carl is the front runner here. I think he's the most likely. I think that's what it's going to.
That's what it sounds like in the sphere too. Yeah.
I was going to say if he stays at Denver, good on Carl. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if he went to any of the openings. But I feel like Anaheim is the big one. Is there a player I'm missing off the top of my head right now that went to Denver University that is a potential guy? That's not Troy Terry, because I know Troy Terry was a Denver guy.
I was talking about the Ducks.
Is there someone you could someone that would want to come to Anaheim to play for David Carl because of the connection with Denver? And I can't. I'm trying to think of anyone that. I mean, Logan O'Connor, but he's not a difference maker. I like Logan, but he's not a difference maker, and I don't even know what his contract is. For some reason, Logan O'Connor is the only guy I can think of.
I don't know if a player is going to make that much of a difference, because Carl has come out and said, like, it's got to be right for my family, a right situation. Those are the two things that he's been mostly preaching. And again, a lot of, Ducks players or coaches hang out in Newport. Newport's not a bad place to raise a family, and it's a good situation. So, like, I don't know if a former player that he has is going to make that much of an impact on the decision he's going to make.
Especially the former player. This is just from Denver University, from they had 11 former players on NHL rosters to open this season. Troy Terry, I think, is the runaway
substantially
best player
the best
on this
one, right?
Yeah, because the other ones are Bobby Brink, Dylan Gambrell, Danton Heinen, Scott
Ducks
Mayfield,
legend.
Ducks legend, Danton Heinen. You're right. Ian Mitchell, Trevor Moore, Logan O'Connor, and Jason Zucker.
The Kings are never getting rid of Trevor Moore, but that'd be a fun addition to that Anaheim roster.
The Kings would be better off without Trevor Moore some nights.
They would, but they'll never.
Yeah.
You mean Trevor Moore from Thousand Oaks? Did you know
Thousand
that Trevor
Oaks
Moore is from
resident,
Thousand
yeah.
Oaks?
Yeah, it's
Yay.
surprise
Yeah.
to me.
Did you know that Clayton Kershaw and Matt Stafford were friends growing up?
What?
Sean McVay's like 35 years old. You ever hear that before? Yeah.
Mike Trout's from New Jersey?
He's an Eagles fan?
Yeah.
What?
Hey, did you know Kyle
Thomas.
Shanahan and McVay coached together? Crazy.
Yeah, they're
Do you know that Jim Harbaugh is brothers with the guy that does the Charger stuff?
Oh, shit. Mind blown.
We're going off the rails here, boys. Just a few little things on Angels front. Looking across the board, the Angels really struggling on offense. We've definitely established that. But I think positionally, you can isolate certain things. Right now, Tim Anderson is listed as the primary shortstop for the Angels. That's going to change. Zach Neto's here. Tim Anderson running a 28 OPS plus. He's playing second base tonight. Good for Tim. Glad he's on the team. Luis Rengifo playing third base, and that's a little bit more. Yohan Moncada is hurt in and out with the thumb. Yohan Moncada has been performing. Luis Rengifo, 51 OPS plus, -6 WAR on the season, and I'm going to believe that's pretty near the bottom. Joe Adell, a 77 OPS plus. I'm just trying to think. Zach Neto coming to help this offense, right? Zach Neto's coming to help. I don't see anyone, and I've scoured through Rocket City, Salt Lake, just thinking about who could fill in, but I don't see help at these primary positions. Third base, center field. Now, you can get healthy at third base with Yohan Moncada, and he can come back, and you can maneuver Luis a little bit differently because he's another guy that needs to be healthy. But where are they going to get help with production from third base, center field? And I don't know. Jack, any thoughts here?
Yeah, there's no one in the system that's really poised to make an impact to the major league level. So I think it's just going to be a sink or swim type situation. And again, like we mentioned earlier, it's a 10-game stretch right now. It's a 162-game season. There's a lot of time for it to change, and there's a lot of time for it to stay the same. One thing that hasn't helped is, Kyron Paris was the best hitter in baseball, and then he's become one of the worst. He's 1 for 26 in his last 9 games. That's just not going to cut it. So, I mean, do I think he's going to be 1 for 26 the rest of the season? No. Do I think he's going to return to hitting over 400 with a 1400 OPS? Also no. You'd like to find some middle ground there. But, this is his first taste at being an everyday major leaguer. So this is his time to really work through everything and, try and stabilize.
Now, this is something, Jack, just because you mentioned it. Kyron. Would you option Kyron right now? And the only reason I would say no is who's going to take his spot.
Exactly. That and, I don't know. He was 2019 draft, right? So he's been in the minor leagues for 6 years, 5 because the COVID year got cut. So, what more do you want to see from him? But then again, I also don't know how many options he has left on his deal, on his contract, or whatever. 2
more years. I want to say 2 more years. This might be the final option year, but it's option years. It's not option. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, if you option him, you're going to see either Kevin Newman or Tim Anderson playing second base every night, and I don't know if they wanted. I'd rather just give Kyron Paris the reps.
Absolutely, I agree. And the problem is, Kyron is Joe's backup in center field, and Joe just hasn't turned the corner yet. Obviously, everything's there. Thomas, what are your thoughts here? And feel free to bring anything up. I do want to just mention something. As much as we all love Christian Moore, he's got 20 strikeouts, 6 plate appearances with a 583 OPS down in AAA. I know he's been improving the last week, but when you have a 583 OPS and you're improving, you got to turn it around. So,
yeah, I mean, you're seeing that Christian Moore is healthy, or not healthy, that he's human. So, hopefully he gets out of his slump, whatever he's got going on down there. The Kyron Paris situation is really tricky though, because you don't know what can happen when Moncada gets healthy. Do you decide to send him down because you have to find at-bats for Rengifo and Anderson? That might require Rengifo to take more reps at second base, which you kind of have to choose. Do you want Paris at second, or do you want Rengifo there? It's also really kind of tricky because of center field at that point then, because that's Joe Adell's backup, as you mentioned. And rightfully so, you might have to, if you decide to keep him, you might have to choose between DFAing either Kevin Newman or JD Davis on the roster. So it's a really tricky.
I think Tim Anderson has served his purpose. He was a stopgap for Zach Neto, essentially. Once Zach Neto came back, I think the writing was on the wall is either Tim is performing or he's not. And Tim's just not performing. So I think you want to see guys like Tim do well, because Tim is a veteran of this game who's had elite success before, and you want to see him return to some form of that. But I think, at this point, it might have to happen in Salt Lake City as opposed to, or in South Jordan as opposed to Anaheim. Another thing, as much as I'd love to see Matt Lugo come up, Matt Lugo is not a center fielder, and he's hitting 206 in Salt Lake. It's just not cutting the cord. So, broad picture here, guys. I think we've covered everything that we were planning on talking about. Oh, no, we did not. I am looking at Zach Kavanaugh right now, the beautiful Zach Kavanaugh in Irvine. Zach, you are taking care of some Oilers coverage for us just to start this. you were planning on like a week and a half, but it might only be a week's worth of coverage. I don't know. We'll see on that one.
I don't know if I'll see them when they come back. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
If they come back, yeah.
Zach is helping us with Kings series, Kings playoffs, road teams. I know that we cover Anaheim sports. I know we cover Orange County sports, and anything that's up north of the 5 there is not exactly pretty. But Zach, what's it been like? It's still Staples Center. It's always going to be Staples Center. It will never not be Staples Center.
Yep.
How's Crypto.com Arena been? What's the atmosphere? Are you enjoying it? How's it going?
The atmosphere is pretty electric. It's helped that both games have been high scoring, at least in terms of the home team. It also helps that, I mean, they're dominating Edmonton. It's like, aside from Connor McDavid going, ballistic in game 1, the series is not close. And the Edmonton's defensive coverage has been abysmal. And with all the abysmal defense, you're putting already a lightning rod in Jeff Skinner, or Stuart Skinner, under fire in the net, and he's coming out for game 3. Calvin Picker's going to get the start up there in Edmonton for the Oilers, and the power play situation is unexpected and turning the series completely towards the Kings' direction. Last year, the Kings didn't score a power play goal in their 5 games against the Oilers. This year, they're already 5 for 9 in 2 games, and the Oilers are 0 for 5 with, again, McDavid and Draisaitl just not getting on the board. Edmonton is a broken group right now, and they're putting out a third set of line combinations for the 3rd consecutive game, a third set of defensive pairs for the 3rd consecutive game. They're looking for anything and everything to jumpstart them. If there is something to get them back in the series, the Kings have overwhelmingly been the best home team in the NHL. So when we talked to Corey Perry after game 2, he kind of gave it a shrug of like, they won home ice. That's what they're supposed to do. Now we got to go home and we got to protect our home ice. The Kings have been much worse on the road than they are at home. So if there's an opportunity, the Oilers got to jump on it tonight, because if they lose game 3, I highly doubt that there will be a game 5. Like I see this Oilers team kind of ready to roll over if they go 0-3.
I've got 2 issues with the Edmonton Oilers, by the way. I relate the Edmonton Oilers to the Bakersfield Condors because the Condors are their AHL farm team, right? Before that, though, the Condors were ECHL club. Mm-hmm. Their goalie was, for an extended period of time, was Chet Picard. And now, obviously, Calvin is starting tonight, so I see Picard. And then you mentioned Stuart Skinner. I've called Stuart Skinner Jeff, Mike, Brian. I've called him Brian Stewart because Brian Stewart was an ECHL goalie.
It doesn't help that Jeff Skinner's on the Oilers right now.
I know.
Too.
So
I screwed that up the other day in a tweet. And
when you mentioned 5 different names for Stewart, it's
yeah.
So Stuart Skinner, yikes. You know what? Edmonton Oilers this series, yikes. Big freaking yikes.
Big yikes.
So Stuart Skinner in particular, but when you don't have defense in front of you, you're going to look bad too. So.
Yeah, I would legitimately say he should have had maybe 2 of the 12 goals that have been scored. They're walking in uncontested. They're 2-on-1s. They're like the game-winning goal in game 1. He had no idea where the puck was. You want him to stop a puck that he literally can't see? Like,
well, what about Linus Ullmark, man? Come on.
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
If you make yourself unable to see, that is a problem.
Yeah, I want to do a roundtable, boys, and can we just do Scouts Honor on this? I wanted to do playoff predictions last week. I know that we're 3 games into most of these series. They might even end here soon. Can I just get Scouts Honor? Thumbs up from all you guys, Scouts Honor?
Sure.
I don't need game totals. What's your pick for Eastern Conference Finals? You know what? No, screw it. Let's just go through it. Game by game. Series by series. Dallas, Colorado. What do you guys got? Open floor.
Colorado. I originally had Colorado, but now Dallas looks like they've really.
Sorry, when I said Scouts Honor, I meant what you were going to tell me a week ago.
Oh.
So
Dallas.
Yeah.
No, not Dallas. Colorado.
Yeah.
Tom?
Colorado to
Yes.
start,
Colorado.
for sure.
I had Colorado too. Yep.
I had Colorado coming out of the Western Conference.
I had Colorado winning the Stanley Cup.
I did too.
Yeah. So, Winnipeg, St. Louis.
Winnipeg.
Yep.
Also, shout out Cam Fowler, 5-point night last night.
Yeah.
Most points by a defenseman in Blues playoff history. He had 5 points last night, like I just said. He had 4 in 17 games with the Ducks.
That's rough. I love Jack, man. I love this stuff. Thomas, Thomas, the Winnipeg.
I had
St. Louis.
Winnipeg. Yeah,
All
I
right.
had Winnipeg.
All right, guys. So since we all agreed on that, Winnipeg, Colorado.
Give me the
Colorado.
Avs.
Colorado.
I had Colorado. So we all had Colorado advancing to the Western Conference Finals at minimum.
I have them in the Stanley Cup.
I had him.
I had them winning the Stanley Cup.
I mean, it's only 2-1 in the 2 games that they've lost to them in overtime. So
That's
it's not.
fine.
It's not.
No, it's
out
not
of-
over. It's not over. But it's
Plus,
just
the
funny.
Gabriel Landeskog injection of that series is interesting.
So I don't think we need to go a whole lot further on that. Kings, Oilers. What did you guys have?
I had Kings.
Yep.
I had Oilers.
Oh wow. Oh, good on you guys. So we're split.
Yeah.
So this is going to make for an interesting one. Okay, here's one. Minnesota, Vegas. Who did you guys have?
Vegas.
I had Vegas.
I had
Minnesota's playing
I had Minnesota.
hell of a series right now.
I undersold how important Kaprizov and Eriksson were to those guys.
Yeah, I had Minnesota on that one.
Seeing them at the beginning of the year and seeing them at the end of the year, completely two different teams. That team's on fire.
So let me figure this mentally. Jack, Vegas, LA. Who did you have on that?
Vegas.
Okay, so you have a Vegas, Colorado final.
Yeah, conference final,
So-
yeah.
yeah,
Zach,
so did
you
I.
had the Oilers and Vegas. Who did you have out of that?
Vegas.
So you have a Vegas, Colorado. You had Vegas, Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are matched. Thomas, who did you have between Edmonton and Vegas?
I had Vegas.
Okay. I had the Kings going over Minnesota as my second round. So I think we all agreed on it, except for Zach. Did you have Colorado over Vegas going final?
Yeah, I think I would have.
Okay, so we all have Colorado in the West. All right, now let me do some thinking because I know the West well. East, Toronto, Ottawa. What did you guys have?
Toronto.
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 I had Toronto. That was
Yeah.
gimme.
Again, those have had 2 overtime games, but I don't think the actual gameplay has been all that close.
Tampa and Florida.
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 Actually, no. I had Tampa.
Whoa, how about you?
I actually did have Tampa.
Good on you, Jack. I had Florida. Okay, so Jack, between Toronto and Tampa, what did you have?
I think I had Tampa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, how's it? Zach, Thomas, what do you got?
Toronto.
I got Toronto.
I had Florida. So this is fun. So I'm gonna have to come back and memorize all this.
Again, I would have had I had Toronto, but I didn't think Matthew Tkachuk would be as good as he is coming back into the lineup. So quick.
Same here.
You're
like,
talking about
I
the
know-
greatest American hockey player ever.
No, that's Austin Matthews.
Shut up.
We're gonna start this
sorry,
again.
no. We all agreed it's actually Connor Hellebuck, right?
Yes, we did. We did agree it's Connor Hellebuck, who is going to be knocked out by Colorado in the second round.
Again.
Okay, here's one. Did you guys have Washington sweeping Montreal?
Sweep, no.
I had Washington advancing.
Yeah, Washington advancing.
Same here.
It's been
That's
closer than I thought it would be, but
It's way closer. Way closer. So, okay, what's that? Here's one. Did you have Carolina sweeping New Jersey? Because I did.
yeah, I think so.
That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially now that like Luke Hughes is out too, like
That's-
they're
I don't know, Thomas. You're a Jersey guy.
Not really, but sure.
No, did you have Carolina over that one?
I did have Carolina over that.
All
one.
right, so we'll make it easy. Carolina or Washington, guys?
Carolina.
I had Washington.
Good on you. Zach, think about a week ago. It's a week ago.
I know.
You've had to-
It was tight then too because Washington's was the best team or second best team in the league record wise. I just don't know if they're better.
I'll just go to this. Nick Down, the greatest hockey player that ever lived. That's the greatest American-born hockey player, straight out of Huntsville, Alabama. He's already got one Stanley Cup. He's not going to another. Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina, probably.
Yep. So
probably what I would have picked. But
so let me round
Nick Dowd? Is that what you just said? Nick Dowd?
Nick Dowd, baby. Nick Dowd.
That covered his brother at ASU.
Former Ontario Reign guy, man. I love Nick Dowd.
His brother Anthony is man in the blue line for ASU.
Nick Dowd went to St. Cloud, I think, with Johnny Brodzinski, if I'm remembering right. But,
Nick Dowd from St. Cloud.
No, Nick Dowd is from Huntsville. He just went to
It rhymes. That's why I just repeated it.
So let me go mental here.
My favorite Ducks prospect of all time, just as a name thing, was Bobby Bolt because he was from Thunder Bay.
Wow.
Bobby
That's
Bolt
sweet.
from Thunder Bay.
That's awesome.
I know. He never made it. I think he played like maybe a game or two, but
My favorite Ducks prospects are both Stanley Cup champs.
I just meant from a name perspective.
I know. Brandon Montour, Shea Theodore.
He should have played for the Lightning.
They were paired together. He should have.
Imagine would have gotten MVP everything just because of the name.
Jack, you had Tampa versus Carolina.
Toronto. Oh, yeah.
Oh, did you have Toronto advancing, or did you had Tampa?
No, I forgot we did the second round already.
So who do you got in the East between Carolina and Tampa?
I had Carolina.
Okay. Zach, you had Toronto and Carolina? Or no, Toronto and Washington.
Toronto, Carolina, but
Who'd you have?
Toronto.
Wow. Uh-oh. I'm nervous about Zach Gallen over here. Thomas, who did you have? You had Toronto and Washington.
Yeah, I had the district, DC.
Okay, so now I've really got to come full circle. We all had the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup,
the
right?
Avs, yeah.
So
We
okay,
had the Avalanche.
so let's go game count. Zach Kavanaugh, you had the Maple Leafs and the Colorado Avalanche. Do not tell me. Wait, hold on. Do not tell me that you chose the friggin' Maple Leafs to win the cup, man.
Toronto in 6.
Nice. Good on you, Zach.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for Ottawa to bounce back on the series and knock them out.
I mean, if they do, that'll be the Leafiest thing of all time.
Oh, it'd be beautiful.
Look, I have a soft spot for the Leafs. I want them to do it so badly. But you know what else I love? When it blows up in their face, too. So, like, I don't lose in either situations. Either, hey, they finally broke through and broke the curse, or they did it again.
Hold on one second. I'm going to act as Lady Liberty here. Brady Kachuk, can you see? I love Brady. I'm all about it, man. Jack, you had Carolina and Colorado. Who did you have? Now, wait. I think I know where you're going here. What did you have?
Colorado 7.
Ooh, that's fun. Okay. Thomas, you had Washington and Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go, buddy?
Give me the Cinderella story. I'm giving it to Ovechkin in 6.
Beautiful.
Not the Capitals, just Ovechkin.
Yeah, just
Ovechkin.
It's Alex versus the Colorado Avalanche. Just a 1-on-5 every game. See how it plays.
I can't believe that was his first playoff overtime goal in Game 1. That's
first game-winning overtime. That's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
kind of incredible for him. I just want to see him dive in another fountain. Like if that happens, I'm all for that.
The loudest building I've ever heard is the DC. It was a DC overtime. I'm trying to remember the defenseman that scored it. It wasn't Carlson. Who was paired with? It was someone paired with
Mike Green.
Yep. Mike Green's goal is the loudest I've ever heard in an arena in my life. So I was in DC for that one, and I've never heard a noise like that before. So I had Colorado and Carolina. I had Florida. I'm remembering now. I have to go back to my mind. I had Florida in the Stanley Cup. I had them against Colorado, and I actually had Florida in 7.
Back to back?
I did not have Colorado. I had to think it back. I had Florida in 7, man. Back to back. Give me Matty Tkachuk, greatest American-born hockey player in the history of ever.
Yeah. These playoffs are so interesting, though, because like the West is so strong. Like there's at least 6 of these teams could win the cup out of the West.
Oh, yeah.
And then the East is so wide open where it's like it's not necessarily they're all powerhouses, but just anybody could do it.
It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic playoffs. It's a shame that the ratings are down because of the smaller markets and some of the broadcast issues that these networks have been having. Like tonight's Kings-Oilers game, they're not sending the broadcasters to Edmonton. They're doing it from the studio in Atlanta, which is terrible.
That's ESPN broadcast, man.
Well, that's TNT. Like
I know.
like
it's Turner, I know, but
ESPN sent Buccigross and Weeks to Winnipeg, but when the games in Winnipeg were on TNT, they did it remotely. So it's like,
just know you can't piss off the mouse, man. Yay, Disney! You guys are great. Baseball stuff. Angels are going to a short series in Minnesota. Target Field, one of the best parks in the nation. I love Target Field. Short trip to Seattle, which is not Safeco anymore. It's T-Mobile Park. Another really beautiful field. That's for 5, and then they are in California for 28 straight days. That is going to be very interesting, and I cannot wait. Jack, you're going to be back in California doing some stuff for us, Angel stuff. Thomas, you're going to be running around. I got to split you kids between some Angel stuff. Zach, I'm sure we'll run you out to the park one of these days here too.
Yeah, June and July, and then I'll
yeah, let's get out of there. Knockout hockey season. Well, sounds fun, guys. Did we miss anything? I think that was what we wanted to hit. We've been doing this for an hour and 10, hour and 20.
Yeah. Didn't really talk about
that's
Verbeek's actual comments after Cronin got fired, but I don't think there's anything.
Did we really get anything from them?
No, not at all.
Get pucks in deep and.
No, it was a lot of we fired him and I can't tell you why.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sure.
Oh God.
Well, was it the on ice? Was it the wins and losses? No, it wasn't the wins and losses. Was it the power play? Wasn't the power play. Was it the culture? Wasn't the culture. Okay, was it the work ethic? No, like the work ethic. Was it something the player said? No, they didn't have any influence on my decision. Okay, then what was it? I can't tell you. Stop asking. It was like, okay.
David Carl is getting hired like tomorrow. It's just.
I mean, he also said that he didn't have anybody lined up. Like he didn't give anything about no answers about anything. They're going to cast a wide net and go through the whole process. And
cast a wide net.
Time.
Add that to hockey bingo.
Sure.
Add
Cast
that
a wide net.
Love that.
Yeah. Hopefully they pick it sooner than later, but he also didn't give a timeline.
Anything Angels, guys? I can't think of anything.
I think we hit on everything.
Okay. I think we've done it a few times. Let's go one more round table. Number 1 overall, or no assumption of who goes first overall. Who the Angels take at number 2? Jack Janes.
Jamie Arnold, and I'm staying there.
Zach Kavanaugh.
The same answer I give every time. Laviolette.
Thomas Murray.
I'm torn. It could either be Holiday or Arnold.
Okay. Anybody? No?
No.
How about you, Taylor?
Who do you got?
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Thomas.
Hey, I beat you.
Go Ivar Arquette, at least today. I know who I want compared to who I think. Who I think, Ivar Arquette. Who I want, Seth Hernandez. So, on that note...
I've been twinless in my hand. Because Jack always has the baseball ready to go. I had my hockey puck to show the grip.
I've been twiddling... Yeah, this entire time... I'm not lying. This entire time, in my right hand, the baseball has been in my hand the entire hour 15 that we've been recording.
These have been flipping because I just bought my first pair of Bluetooth, so I've been flipping this back and forth. And
welcome to the 22nd century,
dude. No joke. Quick note, kind of talking company that's going to help us out here in the near future. Ike's Love and Sandwiches. We're going to have a stop by, sit down at some point. Boys, go stop by Ike's, get a free sandwich. I am going to pick up a sandwich called the Arash Markazi. They have a sandwich named after our boss, guys. So that's fun.
Arash got to meet up with the whole hockey crew at Crypto on Game 2.
I saw that. That's
full
fun.
boat. Yeah.
So is that at all locations or?
That's all locations. They got some in Irvine, some in Tustin. No, we're gonna meet up we're gonna all meet up at the one in Tustin one of these days. But
because there's a one in Phoenix, and there's a bunch of San Francisco Giants named sandwiches there.
Talk to Arash on that one. I think I want to say we're good on that, but guys, go check out Ike's Love and Sandwiches all over Orange and LA County. Tell them that we sent you, all right, and have some fun. What are the weekend plans, Jack? What are you doing for the weekend?
Oh God, watching playoff.
All right, never mind. Jack,
watching playoff hockey. That's pretty much it.
I forgot it's finals at ASU. Never mind, Jack. You're good. Zach Kavanaugh, what do you got going on for the weekend, buddy?
My mom's coming into town and she has a thing to do. She's bringing the dog, so I get to dog sit Saturday night. Lovely Maggie, beautiful little dog. And am I doing anything Sunday? No, probably just watching more hockey.
Beautiful. Thomas Murray, what do you got, bud?
Yeah, I'll be helping some friends move tomorrow. How about you, Taylor? gonna new to be uncle, correct?
Officially, T.O. Taylor, man. My sister-in-law had a baby yesterday, a little before 8 o'clock in the morning. So, really cool little kid.
Congratulations.
Thanks, buddy. Milan Zuniga. I will share pictures, of course, and then Zach, you had something too, didn't you?
Yeah, I forgot Sunday morning because they're doing the 20th anniversary re-release of Star Wars Episode 3.
Oh, that's right.
So my buddy and I, they're doing the 4DX theaters.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's motion simulator, and you just strap in, and there's like smells and sounds and mist.
Yeah, there's one right by me at the source.
Yeah, we're doing that Sunday morning.
It'll be fun.
So, yeah, you get to fly around through space watching the movie.
Yeah. No, this is.
Let me know how that goes.
There is little Milan Zuniga. So cool little guy. I went and saw Corona earlier in the week, so I'm gonna go see him again. Corona High School. A lot of.
You've been there a lot. Yeah.
I have. Jack, stay safe. That's all I got. Mill Avenue's fun, buddy, but downtown's better. Oh,
have not been there in a while.
Look at that little guy. It's bouncing around. It's all kind of. Oh, what a cute little pup.
She's a beauty.
Oh, that's sweet. So,
yeah.
All right, boys. Well, you can follow Jack Janes on socials at @JackJanes_, Zach Kavanaugh at Zach Cavs, ZACHCAV, at Thomas Murray, Thomas_L_Murray. You can follow me on socials at Taylor Blake Ward. And for Wings on Katella and thesportingtribune.com, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the time, everybody.